Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we are tackling something that drives almost everyone absolutely crazy when it comes to personal finance. It's this frustrating reality that most people quit investing right before their money actually starts doing the heavy lifting for them. And the crazy thing is, they don't quit because they made bad choices. No, they quit because nobody ever sat them down and showed them the exact moment when compounding stops feeling like a total lie and starts looking like an absolute miracle. So today, we're going to fix that. I'm going to show you the precise mathematical framework that predicts exactly when that magical shift happens.
To really understand this, let's look at someone we'll call Alex. Alex is 30 years old, and about 3 years ago, he decided to get serious. He started putting $250 every single month into a broad index fund. No fancy crypto, no weird meme stock picks, just boring, consistent investing. He's skipping weekend trips, he's budgeting carefully, he's genuinely trying. But last week, he checked his account and saw just over $11,000. His immediate thought, is this even real? 3 years of discipline, and I could wipe that out in a month if my car broke down the wrong way? He's staring at his account feeling like all these sacrifices are yielding absolute pennies. And honestly, it's a completely valid frustration. We've all been there.
The thing is, Alex actually isn't doing anything wrong. He just doesn't understand the shape of compounding. Compounding doesn't grow in a straight, predictable line. It's a curve. Think of it like a snowball rolling down a hill. In those first few seconds, it barely picks up any snow. It looks completely ridiculous, and you might think the whole process is just failing. But it's not failing. The snowball just doesn't have enough mass yet for its size to matter. It literally just needs more hill. The process of compounding isn't broken in those early years. It is simply building the baseline required to eventually roll entirely on its own.
So to get you to that vertical explosion of wealth, you need a system. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to walk through a data-backed blueprint called the 9751 rule. We'll cover the 9% realistic baseline, the 7-year tipping point, 5 layers of diversification, 1 annual increase, the cost of bad behavior, and finally, the lifetime arc.
All right, part 1, 9%, the realistic baseline. This is all about setting the correct foundation for your expectations.
Why 9%? Well, having totally unrealistic expectations is exactly why most people just abandon their strategy entirely. That solid foundation you need to set is 9%. If you don't anchor yourself to this specific number, you are going to quit when you shouldn't. And this isn't just a random guess. This is the historical reward the market offers you for your patience.
The hard data absolutely backs this up. Since 1871, the S&P 500, which is the most tracked index on the planet, has delivered a compound annual growth rate of roughly 9.6%, assuming dividends are reinvested. If we look from 1928 to 2024, it sits around 10%. Now, actually, if we strip out inflation, which, as we know, quietly eats away your purchasing power, that real return drops to about 6.9%. But the absolutely crucial point here is that 9% is not a guarantee for any single year. I mean, in 2008, the market dropped 37%. But zoom out. Researchers found that in every rolling 7-year period since 1926, the average return was positive, no exceptions. Setting your baseline expectation at 9% means you simply won't feel cheated when reality inevitably hits. Which brings us to part 2, 7 years, the tipping point, the minimum time commitment before compounding really becomes visible. This brings us to the exact minimum time commitment you need before compounding genuinely starts to feel like it's working in your gut, not just on a spreadsheet. That magical number is 7. 7 years is exactly when the math stops being a theory and becomes something you can physically see happening in your account.
Let's check back in on Alex's journey here if he just stays consistent. In year 1, compounding is basically a joke, right? The market has only added about $100. By year 5, he's put in $15,000 of his own hard-earned money, and the market has added about $4,400. It's nice, but it sure doesn't feel life-changing. But look at the jump between year 5 and year 10. He adds another $15,000 of his own cash, but the market? The market adds $19,000. The growth aggressively overtakes his own contributions right around that 7-year mark. It's amazing to see.
And there is a massive psychological reason why this 7-year mark matters so much. In any random 1-year period, you really only have about a 74% chance of making money. But extend your timeline to 7 years, the probability climbs to over 95%. 7 years is the exact point where time has finally done enough heavy lifting to make itself visible. It's the moment the money literally starts moving faster than you can track it.
Moving on to part 3. 5 layers of true diversification. owning assets that respond differently to the exact same events.
Getting past that 7-year mark requires you to not panic and sell everything during a bad year. And to do that, the framework requires exactly 5 layers of defense. A critical error people make is thinking that owning 5 different tech stocks or using 3 different investing apps is diversification. It's really not. That's just a collection. True diversification means owning assets that respond entirely differently to the exact same global events.
Let's walk through this. Layer 1, broad market index funds. This should make up 40 to 60% of your portfolio, delivering that historical 9% baseline we talked about. Layer 2, dividend-paying stocks at 15 to 25%. These are great because dividends quietly compound in the background, even when market prices totally stall. Layer 3, small and mid-cap growth stocks at 10 to 20%. Sure, they're more volatile, but historically they've returned around 14.3% annually compared to the broad market's 10%. Layer 4, international exposure. Remember, the US makes up less than 60% of global stock market value. Holding 10 to 20% internationally protects you from being tied to just one country's economy. And finally, Layer 5, defensive assets like bonds. Keep 10 to 20% here. Why? Because when stocks drop 30%, your bonds might only drop 3%. Vanguard data shows this exact 5-layer approach leads to 20% less volatility, and less volatility directly prevents the panic selling that destroys wealth.
All right, part 4, 1 annual increase. This is about supercharging the compounding that's already happening. So you have your baseline, your timeline, and your defense. Now we reach the accelerator. It all comes down to the number 1, just one tiny, almost unnoticeable annual habit that will completely alter your final math. Here it is. Just one time every single year, you increase your monthly contribution by 5%. That is it. If Alex keeps his contribution totally flat at $250 a month for 20 years, he ends up with roughly $173,000. But what if he increases it by just 5% each year? In year 2, a 5% increase on $250 is just $12.50 more per month. That's skipping literally one food delivery order a month. By making that tiny 5% adjustment every year as his income grows, his 20-year total leaks to roughly $265,000. That's $92,000 more from a change so small he won't even notice it in his monthly budget. Part 5, the cost of bad behavior. Why the system only works if you don't sabotage it. The 9751 framework is incredibly simple, right? The math is crystal clear. But here is the dramatic truth. Most investors never reach the breaking point. According to a massive 30-year study by the financial research firm Dalbar, the reason investors fail is their behavior, not the strategy. Over a 20-year period ending in 2024, the S&P 500 returned 10.35% annually. But the average equity investor, they earned just 9.24%. The crucial point is this gap. Why does it exist? Because the average investor guesses wrong on market direction 75% of the time. They pull their money out during uncertainty and pile back in only after the rally is already over. The agonizing reality of that 1.1% gap is massive when you visualize it. On a $100,000 investment over 20 years, the S&P's return produces about $717,000. The average investor's behavior produces $555,000. That is $162,000 completely lost, not to the market, but to their own bad decisions. The 9751 rule isn't about being smarter than Wall Street. It's a defense mechanism. It simply removes the decisions that destroy you. Finally, part 6, the lifetime arc, going from that flat base to the vertical explosion. So what actually happens when you just let the system work? Let's bring Alex back one final time and watch his lifetime journey play out. At 30, Alex starts putting in $250 a month. By 37, he has roughly $32,000. It's not dramatic yet, but he has passed that 7-year breaking point. By 45, sitting at $115,000, it clicks. In one good market year, his account is growing by more than he contributes all year long. By 55, he's at $380,000. The snowball is moving fast now. And by 65, he's looking at well over $800,000. He only contributed about $350,000 of his own money over his life, but compounding stacked another $450,000 right on top of that. In his last decade alone, his balance grew by over $400,000, while he contributed less than $100,000. The snowball is massive, and it's rolling entirely on its own.
The only difference between Alex at 30 and Alex at 65 is the decision to not quit before the snowball gets big enough. Wealth isn't just a possibility here, it is a mathematical outcome. The only question is, will you be in the game long enough to collect it? So do this for me. Take 10 minutes right now. Open your investment account. Calculate exactly how far you are from that 7-year mark. Check your 5 layers of diversification and schedule a reminder to increase your contribution by 5%. The results take decades, but the actions take literally minutes. Take control of your mathematical outcome today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.